I have only one request to the Russian government. If another missile or aircraft enters our space without permission, deliberately or by mistake, and gets shot down and the wreckage falls on NATO territory, please don't come here to whine about it. You have been warned.
That was the Polish foreign minister. He was not warning Russia, but rather letting them know that don't cry when you lose your jets. That's because last time Russia tried something like this was with Turkey back in 2015. Then Turkey shot down a Russian jet and Putin was crying all over Russian TV saying how unfair it is that Russian jets cannot fly in other countries' airspace. Well, it seems Putin has again forgotten that message and now Poland is ready to remind him. This is what the Polish foreign minister said during the UN Security Council meeting.
To the representatives of Russia, I have this to say. We know you don't care for international law and you are incapable of living in peace with your neighbors. Your insane nationalism contains a lust for domination that will not cease until you realize that the age of empires is over and that your empire will not be rebuilt. Every drone strike by the heroes of the armed forces of Ukraine, may God bless them, brings this day closer. Your 3-day special military operation can't even conquer Donbass for 10 years now. But the potential for criminal, catastrophic Russian mistakes is still there. By ordering mobilization in 1914, you precipitated the start of World War I, which bled Europe white and led to your Bolshevik revolution. By signing the Hitler-Stalin Pact, you helped launch World War II, the bloodiest in history. By Sovietizing Central Europe, you caused the Cold War. Don't start another one. We are peaceful democracies who have studiously avoided actively joining your attempt to reconquer Ukraine. But we will not be intimidated.
You see, Putin is furious about this statement from Poland. That's because, according to Kremlin, Russia never actually attacked Poland or Estonia. But, according to the Russian embassy in Poland, the drones were a mistake. But then again, Russian army is saying that they did this whole thing on purpose to tell the world how weak NATO is for not shooting down Russian drones and Russian jets. You see, this just shows how considerate Russian government truly is. They will give us 100 lies and then they will let us pick which one we want to believe. It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet. We have all the options we need. But this actually also shows why Putin is mad about the Polish statement, because Poland just exposed all the Russian lies. This is where it reminds me of President Truman's quote that applies to this situation perfectly. I don't give them hell. I just give them the truth and they think it's hell. But for Russia and Putin, hell did not stop with just Poland. It seems every single country at the UN is not happy with Russian tactics. That includes the United States. This is what President Trump had to say about Russian jets attacking NATO. Let's listen in.
Do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
Would you back up NATO allies? You said that you thought that they should shoot down the Russian aircraft. Would you back them up? Would the United States help them out in some way?
Depends on the circumstance, but we're very strong toward NATO.
I think that's as clear as it gets, and Poland just received that message. Because the Polish foreign minister replied to this clip on Twitter and he said this, Roger that. Now, of course, we also had a very strong statement from Finland's president Stubbs, who has been one of the most impressive leaders throughout this whole ordeal. So I really want to show you guys what he said. Let's listen in.
Now, the Security Council has had Ukraine on its agenda for the last 11 years, with a few results on paper and even less on the ground. At the same time, it's quite clear that the General Assembly has overwhelmingly, on several occasions, condemned the aggression of Russia. The Council was entrusted with the primary responsibility to maintain international peace and security, and I think it's quite safe to say that we have failed in that. Ordinary Ukrainians, civilians, and actually Russians as well, are paying a high price for this. Now, quite often I hear words that we need to eradicate the root cause of this war. The root cause is very simple. And the root cause is that Russia is not abiding by this, the UN Charter. It's really as simple as that. It is trying to violate the independence, the sovereignty, and the territorial integrity of Ukraine. I think a just peace is in our shared interests, and the solution is quite simple. It's in two phases. The first phase is a ceasefire. Ukraine has accepted it. The United States has proposed it. Europe supports it, but there's only one country that doesn't want a ceasefire, and that is Russia. And the second phase is very simple. You go into peace negotiations. And peace negotiations can last a long time, but they are indeed the only way we can get out of this. I personally think that today could be a game changer for many reasons. One of them was President Trump's post on Truth Social, which I didn't think left any space for interpretation. It was a clear message that it's time to end this war. And I think Secretary Rubio noted that President Trump is running out of patience. Now, of course, Russia is not operating alone, so we urge all states directly or indirectly supporting the invasion to stop.
For those of you who missed our last video, this was the tweet President Trump put out. You can pause and read the whole thing, but basically the message is that the Russian economy is struggling, Russian military is struggling, and I think it's time for Ukraine to get back to 1991 borders. Let me simplify what this means, and of course this is the first time a US president is saying this publicly. President Trump believes that Ukraine can take back all the territory that Russia has captured since 2014. That includes Donetsk, that includes Luhansk, and the biggest of all, that includes Crimea. Clearly, as you guys can see, this was a huge statement, and the reason President Trump is calling for this is simple. If Russia doesn't want peace, why not give Ukraine offensive weapons? Not just defensive weapons, so they can defend against the Russian onslaught. Maybe Ukraine should start retaking the land that Putin has captured over the last 14 years. Now, of course, one of the easiest way to push Russia back, the Russian army back, is to hit them where it hurts. That's not the front lines, but rather Putin's bank account. This is where I do want to mention something that President Stoops just said relating to countries that are supporting the Russian war efforts. The countries that are buying Russian oil, they are basically funding Putin's war chest that he's using to kill Ukrainians inside Ukraine. Well, we had President Zelensky join Fox News for an interview right after the UN session, and this is what he had to say about China, which is the biggest country supporting Russia's war.
United States, President Trump. And I think that President Trump can change the attitude of Xi Jinping to this war. Because China, we don't feel that China wants to finish this war.
China.
Well, things are moving fast. It seems after yesterday's statement by President Trump, US has completely withdrawn from the negotiating process between Russia and Ukraine. Trump has realized that Russia is not interested in peace. We could tell this by his statement. Now, so far, the withdrawal has not been confirmed by United States, but we have seen some confirmations from the Ukrainian side and the Russian side. On your screen, we have a tweet from a Ukrainian politician who confirms that US has stopped being involved in the negotiating. And on top of that, on this next tweet, we have some kind of confirmation from the Russian side who say that almost all hints of discussions about peace talks among all important players have disappeared. Now, Russia wants to use this as an excuse to start attacking Ukrainian civilians and Ukrainian energy infrastructure, but this also means that US is getting ready to slap even more sanctions on countries that are supporting the Russian war machine. That will include China, that will include India, who we already have some sanctions on, but it will also include European countries like Turkey and EU countries like Hungary and Slovakia. Now, relating to Hungary, President Trump was asked an important question yesterday when he was sitting with President Zelensky right next to him. I want to show you guys what he said exactly because it was definitely something Hungary does not agree with. So let's listen in.
To President Orban, who's refusing to stop buying Russian oil.
Well, he's a friend of mine. I have not spoken to him, but I have a feeling if I did, he might stop, and I think I'll be doing that.
Well, it seems this morning Hungary's foreign minister confirmed that they will not stop buying Russian oil because they don't have any other way of getting oil to their country. This is just not true. If Hungary wants, they can get oil from other sources, but unfortunately they are just too hooked on Russian supply. This definitely sets up for quite a bit of tensions inside EU because right now we have Hungary and Slovakia being the only two countries who are spending billions every single month buying Russian oil, and then that same money is being used to attack NATO countries like Estonia and Poland. Well, this is where I want to show you something from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who kinda confirmed at UN yesterday that we can expect more sanctions on countries buying Russian oil, we can expect more sanctions on Russia, but most importantly, he confirmed that we can expect Ukraine to get offensive weapons very, very soon. Let's listen in.
But the one that's proved to be an extraordinarily challenge has been the war in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine. The president has worked on it tirelessly, has invested a tremendous amount of his own time, energy, and the highest levels of our government. We have had meetings in Turkey, meetings in Saudi Arabia, meetings in Alaska, countless phone calls, doing everything possible to bring this conflict to a resolution and to an end. A war that cannot end militarily. It will end at a negotiating table. That's where this war will end. But the longer it lasts, the more people will die, the more will be destroyed.
Continent into its most serious crisis since the Second World War.
This war has to end, and we have done everything we possibly can and will continue to do everything we possibly can to bring it to an end. Very generous offers have been made. For example, a ceasefire at the current lines of contact, while all the other details on the future of the conflict could be worked out in terms of future territorial lines. The president has shown extraordinary patience in terms of not assessing additional sanctions in the hopes of having a breakthrough in this regard. And all has come to what appears to be not just a stagnant one, but an era, and we've entered a period of what appears to be potential even escalation, with the historically highest number of strikes we've seen over the last few nights and before. And now we are also watching incursions into neighboring airspace by both drones and airplanes. The president is a very patient man. He's very committed to peace, but his patience is not infinite. And as he has said repeatedly, he has before him the opportunity and the options of imposing additional economic costs on the Russian Federation if necessary in order to bring this to an end. He also has before him the option, as he has already chosen to do in some circumstances, to sell defensive weaponry and potentially offensive weaponry so that Ukraine can defend itself from this assault by purchasing that weaponry. So I'm here to say to the Security Council, the United States remains as committed as it has ever been to a peaceful resolution to this dangerous conflict. But there will come a moment in which we will have to conclude that perhaps there is no interest in a peaceful resolution. And then the president has before him real options, which he intends to pursue, as he has made clear today in some of the messages he has put out. So I strongly urge the Security Council, the member states here, and those who are not part of this as well, to do everything in their power, and including the Russian Federation, to do everything within their power, and the Ukrainian side for that matter as well, but all sides, to bring this war to an end before it becomes something that will last another 3 or 4 years, lead to more destruction, both economic and at the same time a loss of life, and loss of property, and loss of futures. This war needs to end. But if it does not, if there is no path to peace in the short term, then the United States and President Donald J. Trump will take the steps necessary to impose costs for continued aggression.
YouTube just dropped a mind-boggling announcement. It is paying creators $64 million per day. Why? Well, because YouTube doesn't have enough creators. That is why you see videos on your homepage that have less than 1,000 views, like this one right here. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that everyone should start a channel. But if you have ever wondered about starting a YouTube channel or a faceless channel, now is a perfect time. YouTube is paying creators millions of dollars every single day, and it's pushing newer and smaller channels now more than ever. But I'm sure you have many questions on how to start and grow a channel. We get questions in our email all the time from some of you guys. That's why we decided to put all our YouTube advice into one YouTube video for completely free. So if you're someone interested in starting your own channel, you can watch that video here on YouTube by clicking the link in the description or card on your screen.